myself. Go ahead, Mr. DeMars.
We provided you a memorandum 1245 with respect to a board assignment on public records. Specifically, it dealt with whether or not the county could charge for the time staff spends with people requesting to review records to make sure that the records remain and are not either changed in terms of the order of where they're at in the files or removed from the files. And we've advised that while it is lawful to impose those charges, the current administrative directive does not establish charges for that clearly in our view, and that's an opportunity for the board to weigh in on what they may wish the county administrator to do in that regard.
Would like some guidance.
Well,
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Barberis.
Well, first of all, on regular public records requests, we are charging for those copies of.
Correct.
Yeah.
We certainly charge for the copies
Right.
of the instruments or for discs if they're burned to a disc.
But the law's always allowed us to copy for time spent for staff, too. You're just opining on it now that is the law. So we should have been charging for that.
Well, that's a policy determination, is whether or not you.
I don't think it's a
we
policy.
have been charging.
I don't think it's a policy determination. We should be doing it.
We are, as I understand, charging for time to gather materials for a public records request. We are, as far as I know, we're not consistently charging to have someone sit in a room with a bunch of boxes when someone's looking at them.
Well, that's just not fair. I mean, we took one of our assistants upstairs, spent an entire day from 9 to 5 with certain constituent who brought her own copier or scanner, and that person should be charged for that time.
Well, I think you can charge, if the policy is changed, you could charge prospectively.
So you're saying that despite what the law says we can do, we've got a separate policy that says only for copies?
I've said we just haven't addressed this issue in our policy, and I think it would be advisable to tell people in advance if you're going to charge them for something and not bill them after the fact without having told them.
Well, I think they should know that their public records requests.
In
In other words, they're getting around the system by bringing their own copier
I think
and their own scanner, using our office space and our secretarial services. That's just uncalled for. So I want that person billed, and the other thing I want is that person is making a ton of public records requests lately. I want to see all payments received from her for the past 6 months. So I'd like to see a copy of that, Mr. Reed, because I'm hearing that there aren't been payments being made, and for her to be able to sit there for an entire day and not be billed for that, and while we lost an assistant for the entire day, is just not right.
But
we can figure that all out.
Okay, but the question Mr. DeMarch raises is somebody did that without having been told they would be charged, and Joe is saying they should be billed retroactively. They should have known. I'm not sure that's fair. I think people need to be told that as they do it.
I think it's very clear that this commission as a whole is saying that this type of charge needs to be added. And I agree with you. We can post this on our website, let people know up front, tell them this is going to be charged, and if you believe it's going to be fairly high, as it says in this memo, we'll require a deposit, and if it's less, we'll return the difference.
The issue that's prospective is one issue. The issue of retroactively sending a bill, if the board wishes to do that, we can do that, but it is the individual was not advised of that charge, I believe. Chris.
That's correct. In the incident that we are discussing today, the individual was not advised of the charges in advance for the staff time to sit in the room while she reviewed the files.
So if we have 10 people walk in at the same time, we got to give them each a conference room and put an employee in with each of them to do exactly what she did that day. That makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. That person needs to be billed. And again, I want to see a copy of the past 6 months of receipts, bills to her and receipts of monies from her. Because I'm hearing from other people in the community who have made public records requests, and they've had to pay from day one. As soon as they made the request, they had to pay. So they're talking to me about selective enforcement. that a certain individual is getting treated totally different than everybody else in the community. And that's just not right. And the policy is clear. The statute is clear. So I don't understand where the problem is. I agree with Commissioner Robinson. It's open and shut. You bill for public records requests. I don't see where the difficulty is here, and I'm just shocked at what's going on. That I watched our biggest conference room on the second floor being utilized for an entire day by one person with boxes all over the place, and every time I turned around looking for one of the assistants, they were in that room, basically sitting there. That makes absolutely no sense whatsoever.
So, Chris, we have the amount of time for that incident?
Yes,
the
we
bill.
can provide the board with, as a matter of fact, we can go back this past year and show you the number of requests and including cost for anything that was received by the county.
And that individual has been billed on other occasions?
Yes, as a matter of fact, there is a similar request from the same individual as of today, and I have provided them an estimate for cost to come in and review the files. I believe right now, administration tells me there's about 17 boxes that have been pulled and are sitting in a conference room now, and so we're trying to schedule time for that person to come in and review.
Is that done without being paid? We haven't been paid for have we been paid for the prior ones yet? Are there any outstanding bills to this person?
There are 2 requests outstanding right now. They've not come in yet to pick those up.
No, I'm talking about paid. How much money have we received payment from this person?
Not for the requests that they've just made, no.
But prior requests?
There has been some payments, yes.
Some payments. Do we have any outstanding bills to that person?
Not for that particular person, no.
Okay.
Particularly the last year.
17 boxes.
Wait a minute.
Commissioner Patterson.
If we're going to bill retroactively, that needs to be a commission vote.
I would
And
think it
there
should
has
be.
not been one to do that. I agree that people should be billed for that, whether they copy it themselves or they don't. If they don't copy it themselves, then there's a bill to copy it and there's a bill for time. If they copy it themselves, there should be a bill for time. I think that's perfectly reasonable, logical, but I don't think we should do it retroactively. I just don't think that's fair.
I don't understand how we could let her know it's going to be charged when we couldn't have done that before. I mean, technically, we've just, supposedly discussed the policy. I think what the policy was you'll be charged for what staff time is spent, and it just wasn't done. I think the policy was there before. And what we need to do is really fess up to what really happened. Is we just didn't do what we were supposed to do.
I don't know that the administrative directive is that clear.
Then how could we have
How can we
done?
do it today,
How could we have already done it then? If that's the
You got a
case.
free ride. That's what it comes down to.
I am not at all arguing where this ought to go in the future, and I believe it would be excellent for the county to have consistent policy and application of that policy on these charges.
As I do.
But I do think that the administrative directive needs to be more clear on that point.
You know,
Commissioner.
Yeah, and my concern is I brought this up 5 or 6 weeks ago, this exact point, a meeting or two before our break, so it has to be probably 6 weeks, saying this exact thing. The person was in our office, did we bill for it, and have we been paid? Here we are 6 weeks later, we don't even know if we can bill for it, and obviously we haven't been paid for it. The state statute allows us to do it. For some reason, we got an internal directive that limits the state statute, apparently. I don't understand that, how that happened. We don't have a copy of it. We don't know anything about it. And meantime, the requests are still coming in. And 6 weeks later, we don't have a definitive answer of what we're going to do. And that's very disturbing. The person should have been billed. And if we want to vote on it, I'm going to vote that we do bill her. Anybody, I don't care who it is, when you're taking that much time, they're public records, no doubt, but the state statute allows for charging, for copying, time to assemble, etc. That clearly includes sitting there with a staff person for an 8-hour period or 9-hour period. For some reason, that's not happening.
Commissioner Hines.
Yeah, looking at the statute, it says, the agency may charge for that type of time. And if the directive as written, which I think it's important that we see it maybe over lunch.
It's been sent to you electronically.
Great, thank you. If a previous board made a policy decision that we wouldn't charge for that time because it hadn't really been happening that much, and now that we see that it is, then, because we're being asked to vote, do we retroactively bill somebody for this? I don't know until we read what our own policy says.
It's not ours, it's the administrators.
Well, he works for us. So, you're asking for a policy decision from us, a vote today to say whether to bill this person in the past. That's one decision. We can make that. The second one, then, is clear that we are making a policy decision going forward that we shall charge. We're making the decision to charge. And then the only other question I think staff is asking us is, well, what's a reasonable amount of time? Is it 30 minutes? Is it an hour of time? And that may be something we might want to discuss to give them direction on that, rewriting the policy.
Commissioner Patterson.
Yeah, one thing that I would want to know is, as the retroactive thing is discussed, are there other people? Surely this can't, this may be unique to bring your own copier, but are there other people that have taken a good bit of staff time and not been billed for their time that we could apply this to and also bill retroactively, as opposed to targeting, a person unless it's really unique?
The second to last page of the directive, paragraph 10, is the applicable section.
Which says we can charge for it, correct?
That's what I said. It's been there all the
It's
time.
been there, we just haven't.
Yeah, it just says we can charge for resources or personnel.
So we've
So,
ignored
it.
and that's easy.
There's nothing to do, it's already
No.
there. It's-
Send the bill.
So he has it.
Send the bill.
I'm sorry, you need a vote on sending the bill.
The directive's
No,
there.
it's right here.
We don't need a
That's-
vote.
It's
It
follow
says
our own
retro-
directive.
All right, I'll make a motion that we send a bill, I move that we send a bill in accordance with the directive.
It's already in there. We don't need to change anything.
What page is it?
Paragraph 10, page 5 of 6 of the directive.
Madam Chair, I made a motion to send the
Second.
bill to the person in accordance with the directive set forth.
Retroactively.
Doesn't matter whether it's retroactively. That's the.
In this case, it is.
I made the motion. I'm waiting for a second.
I seconded.
Hines seconded.
Thank you.
Discussion.
Discussion is clear. The directive's there. The statute's clear. And
By billing this person or any person in the past for this time is clearly been allowed under this directive. So we're not doing anything different. First, and then second, I don't know that we're retroactively billing. Our policy right now is we bill them when they walk in. This person has not walked in. When they do, that bill will be given. So now going forward, it's I think in this scenario, my biggest concern is that if this directive does not have an issue for a deposit on such a large request, then that's something I want to see. But for this motion, I fully support it.
Another discussion.
Madam Chair, and just to read the lines so for the public can see, the directive clearly says the county has generally charged the base hourly rate, including benefits for each person inspecting and redacting exempt material. The same base hourly rate may be used for a clerical employee's time when that person is safeguarding such records from loss or destruction during an inspection. And that's exactly what occurred. So the policy's been there.
Commissioner Patterson.
I think when somebody's incurring a cost like that, we have an obligation to point it out, even if it's in your records as a policy. This is going to be a several $100 bill. It's not an insignificant thing. And I think this is a gotcha. I think it should be applied rigorously in the future, but I don't see the fairness of this.
Commissioner Robinson.
It's very apparent that we weren't charging and we had the ability to. I'm disappointed that we haven't fessed up, that we don't fessed up on the administration's part, that it's there, the apparent attempt not to say that it wasn't. This is not acceptable to me as far as this is concerned. I'm very upset over this. I'm very upset because we lost money that day. We lost productivity that day. This is taxpayer money that we lost. This is other people paid for this. Quite honestly, other people paid for this. Absolutely entitled to them. No qualms with them getting them. My qualm is the fact that other people had to pay for this. I do have an issue with it, and I completely understand Commissioner Barbetta and Commissioner Hines. I do think that there's a notice issue. If the right thing for this person to do would actually be to pay it anyways, if they're going to be a stand-up person, would be to hand over a check to and pay for it anyways. I just can't support billing them because we screwed up.
The question on that is, did we screw up? Was there a statement to this person that don't worry about it, you won't be charged this time? Or that's where maybe we need some better communication, but in the decision on whether to bill them for this time or not, maybe we can have better communication, but only in the scenario where we said we won't do this, or if that person asked, will there be a charge? I think this is getting down into the nitty-gritty details of a bill and what happened. Our job is to set policy, not to do this, and I don't know if this is the appropriate place to do this fact-finding on this particular bill. But.
Sure.
Patterson.
Reading from the policy, it says the same base hourly rate may be used for a clerical employee's time when that person is safeguarding such records from loss or destruction during an inspection, and it says may. It does not say will, and it probably should say will. But it doesn't. And
there are situations where you go from someone asking for any and all information related to a subject for the last 10 years to someone saying, could I have a copy of that? And if it's to have a copy of it, I'm just saying the single page, both of those are under the same policy. And if you walked out of your office and said, can you get Miss So-and-so a copy? The issue is, do you get them a copy and hand it to them so they can be gone, or do you say, I need to get a charge for that? And the charges also are collected involving the clerk's office. So it's not in the county government, you can get multiple parties involved in the recouping. We can send the bill, and perhaps the person will pay that. But you need to hear, and this isn't anything about Crystal, we're getting bombarded with public records.
well, the other thing is it probably should say, some limit, so you aren't, somebody spends 5 minutes, you're not going to charge them. It should say same base hourly rate will be used if anticipated time is more than, I don't know what it is, 20 minutes.
Well, we have a motion on the floor to send the bill according to the directive
Correct.
902. So let's dispose of this motion, and if there's a need for further discussion, we can do that. So all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Nay.
Chair votes nay. Motion fails 2-3. I am.
That's an unhappy nay, by the way.
It is very unhappy because I think we've been taken advantage of. But going forward, I want us to rigorously enforce this because it's not fair to the staff or the taxpayers for us to have something on record and not adhere to it. Commissioner Hines.
A sad nay and a difficult yes on my part, in that, Crystal, I appreciate the factual information you gave us, because I could see how a citizen could be not necessarily misled, but wouldn't understand unless they were told. And so I think it's very clear that when something gets, when someone says any or all, an explanation needs to the citizen to say, well, you understand that this could be costly, and we'll give you an estimate. And that may, make them say, well, let me get more specific in my request. Thank you.
Commissioner Patterson.
Part of the confusion is, those of us involved in government may have the opinion and realize that it's logical that you're going to want to have a staff person there to safeguard records. But the average person walking off the street might not realize that it's part of our process to have somebody there the whole time. And actually, I remember a prominent citizen demanding access to my computer at the office and Commissioner Thaxton's computer, and sending somebody in. And I know for a fact there wasn't somebody in my office the whole time while they were in my office searching records on a particular thing, apparently of which nothing was found that was of interest. So, you know, that's why you need to be told.
So, and Mr. Reed, making sure that this is on our website, this with regard to these public records, I think it's going to be very important.
We can do that.
Forward.
The other, just tell you the other strategy, there are other jurisdictions I've been in where the review of record takes place in the middle of a open area where anybody can watch, that's assigned to the time to look over and make sure there's nothing being taken. But
Two things, even if there's one document being searched for, it takes time for us to compile those 17 boxes. So it's not just,
right.
you know, so we should be making sure that we're, you know, being reimbursed for taxpayer expense for that. But on top of that, is there, Mr. DeMarche, in this, I mean, I'm still not understanding this because this is written by the administration and not by us. So and how our policy translates into this, I'm not clear as to why we're even involved in this aspect of this right now. But
because there was a request of the commission to get involved.
The deposit issue, is that covered? Do you believe that's covered? Do we need to do something, or is there? I mean,
how much deposit?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, how do you define that?
The policy is right now under a point of review, but if it does not have a deposit now in it, correct?
It does not specifically spell out a deposit.
so because this is the administration code. So
It would
is
be
that going to
lawful to impose one.
Are you going to address that? I don't understand because this isn't for us to write this aspect of it. Are you going to address that, Mr. Reed, or is this something
Yes.
you're seeking more direction on?
We will address that. The administrative policies get reviewed by the department. They come back up and there's a sign-off. Most of our policies, the last influx of policy was done probably in 2009 as the downturn occurred. Most of them have the last administrator's signature, as this one does. We've asked Mr. Ublacker to look at it, Office of Financial Management to look at them in each department. And we are issuing them as they come back. I've done probably 3 since I've been here that have been new, but most of these are older policies. But terms change, titles change, and technology changes. So yes, we'll be reviewing that. Deposits will be placed in this. The issue actually came up over retroactive billing, and when it was determined the person was not told, is what triggered this coming back before the board. And you requested a legal opinion, which is what we provided. That's the